Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Wild Rift patch 4.0a. We got our first look of this patch on Friday, and to be honest, in terms of the champions and the item changes, not too much has changed, but they've added in one thing in particular, which I think a lot of people have been excited about, which is burning towers and respawning inhibitors. There's timestamps in the description if you want to have a look at any particular changes, but I'm really excited to go through these patch notes. Really excited to see how they're really going to add in burning turrets and how the respawning inhibitor mechanic works compared to PC League of Legends. If you enjoy the content, make sure you leave a like button, make sure you subscribe for more Wild Rift content. I will be streaming this patch as well, so if you want to head over to my Twitch link is down in the description. Right, let's take a look at this patch then. So bases on burning and inhibitors are respawning. Welcome to patch 4.0a. Like I said, most of these changes are pretty similar to the ones that we saw in the first look. First one is Aatrox. Aatrox continues to see strong win rates and high ban rates to combat this, reducing the healing he gains from his world ender, which is one of the more frustrating strengths. I think this is a pretty good nerf. I think the thing is with Aatrox is that I kind of explained it before. With Aatrox, he's very annoying at trying to deal with him because of all of his healing. And sometimes even if you buy anti-heal like Morellonomicon, Mortal Reminder, any items like that, or even Thornmail, it still feels like this champion does a lot of healing. And sometimes that's even without the ultimate as well. So this will reduce the healing a little bit, but I still think the champion will be very strong even without the healing, just because of how much damage he deals. And he still has a lot of healing with the rest of his kit, like from his auto attacks and also from his abilities. Akshan is getting a really nice buff. Raff, Street Rats, Scoundrels, take that. Okay, that's a weird one. We know that chasing scoundrels without mana is no fun. So we're lending you a hand and giving you a little more to have. I think the big one is actually the cooldown going down to 2 seconds at maximum rank. The thing is that this ability is normally maxed lasts. So you're probably only going to be feeling that 4-second cooldown for most of the game. But when you get into later stages of the game, this ability only being on a 2-second cooldown. So you could basically go invisible every 2 seconds. It's pretty nuts. Getting 2 missing mana regen per second when chasing scoundrels. I don't think this is going to be too much to Akshan. I think Akshan is in a pretty decent spot anyway. I think he's been okay. I mean, more of a mid laner than an AD carry. That's why I really don't play him too much. I think this will be nice. Means he can use his abilities more often if he does get low on mana. Like I said, I think the big buff though is the cooldown. I think the cooldown going down to especially 2 seconds at maximum rank is really big. Ashe, I'm really looking forward to these changes. Support Ashe has been overperforming, so it's shifting some of the power out of her volley and into ranger's focus. That way we can keep her role as a marksman on target. So the base attack speed going up on ranger's focus, which I think is really big, especially at later stages. So you got 5%, 10%, and 15% at maximum level. This is normally the ability that you max second, so you'll probably get the full benefit maybe at level 12, roughly around about that level. Maybe a bit earlier than that. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but still pretty nice to get some extra base attack speed. So I'll definitely have to try on hit and crit Ashe some more, like I have done in my most recent video. And then the volley going up in cooldown by 2 seconds at every single rank, which means that you can't really spam this ability as often. I think still buying a lot of ability haste like Manamune, Trinity Force, I think will still be very strong, but just not as strong as obviously the previous patch. Blitzcrank getting a nice little buff. Line of Rough and Grab is harder at higher levels of play. I've seen this firsthand from a lot of players. No flame intended. So cranking up the movement speed after overdrive's acceleration decay. So yeah, just increasing movement speed, 15% of the first acceleration decay and then 25% on the second acceleration decay. So some pretty nice buffs to give Blitzcrank a little bit more movement speed so you can try and land your hook a little bit more often, which is going to be quite nice. Again, I don't think Blitzcrank is going to be that good. The thing about Blitzcrank is like, if you land your hook, then great. If you don't land your hook, then you're kind of useless. You don't really have anything else to offer once you have the hook hooked down. Ekko is jungle o'clock. We've noticed that jungle Ekko's clear speed has been lackluster, so it's time for a buff. 30% increase. So this is basically, this basically got nerfed before, but now it's getting rebuffed again, which is kind of interesting. I thought they might have wanted Ekko to be more of a mid laner than a jungler. That's why they did the nerfs that they did before. But now they're just giving him more damage to his passive now, which means that they want jungle Ekko to be back, which is pretty good. I quite like Ekko jungle. Kind of my go-to normally in like legendary queue. Very safe jungler to play. Very good scaling jungler as well that you can play. So I think it's going to be quite exciting to play Ekko again in the jungle. He's not going to feel as weak as before. Kayn, I think this is probably the biggest changes, I think, in this whole patch. Well, we're happy with the performance of Darkenslayer Kayn, which I could completely agree with. Shadow Assassin is struggling to hold his own against his alter ego. We're giving Shadow Assassin a handful of buffs to make the choice between his forms, and Darkenslayer form a meaningful one. So Darkened Scythe, so the first ability, so these are all to do with the Shadow Assassin form, so this is not to do with the base or the Darkened form. This is the blue form for Kayn. So the Shadow Assassin passive reset time has gone from 6 seconds down to 5 seconds. The Shadow Assassin passive bonus damage, which I think this is the biggest change, is going from 14 to 42% to now 32 to 46%. So as soon as you upgrade now into Shadow Assassin, you're going to get a huge amount of bonus damage. Before it was like, you know, 14% and it wasn't really that big. I mean, obviously 14% is in the early level, so it'll go up by a little bit, but now it's a whopping 32%, which is a crazy increase in bonus damage, which I think is going to be really, really nice. And it also you also increase the quantity of charges that Shadow Assassin receives when damaging ranged champions, so it means that you can get to your form sooner as well, which I think are some much needed changes for blue Kayn. I definitely going to be trying him again, because I do like playing blue Kayn, but the problem is you can't one-shot anyone, and that's kind of the purpose of blue Kayn. It's like you're supposed to be squishy, but you're supposed to one-shot a lot of people, so that's kind of the difficulty with that at the moment. The second ability, the Shadow Assassin cooldown, has gone down from 8 seconds down to 7 seconds, and the third ability, the Shadow Assassin range increased slightly. I'm not too sure. These look different to... And I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the passive. This is supposed to be... I think this is all the second ability. I think this is supposed to be the ultimate. I'm not too sure if they made a little bit of a mistake in terms of the numbers here, because I'm pretty sure this is the passive, this is the ultimate, and this is the third ability. I'm pretty sure it is anyway. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the ultimate, this is the third ability, and this is the passive. I'm not really too sure. I think they got it a little bit wrong there. But yeah, passive, third ability, ultimate, really, really nice changes for Kayn. We'll definitely be seeing blue Kayn a lot more. Lucian, this is one of the big question marks for me. I'm not really too sure why they're buffing Lucian. I think Lucian was already in a decent spot. They're just giving him a little bit of early game power to the base damage of his first ability, which means you can trade a lot better in the laning phase. Like I said, I mean, Lucian's early game was already very good because Brutal is very, very strong. You also have... the Kraken Slayer as well, which is also very strong. So them two early game runes are very, very strong, and also now it means that his, you know, passive and now his first ability is going to do more damage. I mean, a little bit scary, to be honest. I think Lucian was already in a good spot, but now he's even in a better spot. Mid Lux is in a good spot, but support Lux is in a bit of a bind. We're shifting some of his power out of her ability power ratios and into her base damage to help, so the support role won't have much ability power. This is exactly what I explained when I talked about the first look. They're, you know, taking percentages out of the ability power and then moving it into the base shield and the base damage, which means that they're trying to look to more towards Lux support rather than Lux AP. But the problem is that when you go for Lux support, most of the time it's better to build Lux AP anyway, even as a support. You know, it's like a champion like Karma. You just build Luden's Ekko, you build Void Staff, Death Camp, and you still get a huge massive shield, and you're still really, really, you know, beneficial even when you build full AP. And it's same with Lux as well. You can still max your second ability, you can still go full AP, so you not only you're going to be dealing damage, but you're also going to be getting a huge amount of shield as well. It would be very, very interesting. I mean, they have buffed the base shield a stupid amount on Lux. Really, really is a stupid amount, and this doesn't take into account the protect enchant as well, which is also very good for Lux. So I'm kind of worried about these buffs. I think that these buffs are going to be very, very nice for her. Well, you can say adjustments in a way, because they're nerfing the AP ratios. We'll have to see how that is. Nautlius has been strong for quite some time. Nautlius win rate has been floating up under the radar, so we're anchoring it back down. with some dredge line nerfs. Yeah, first ability nerfs going down, going up, sorry, in cooldown, which is really nice, and the base damage going down. I don't think this is going to mean too much. I mean, 10 base damage is kind of meh. Cooldown is kind of meh. I mean, it's like 1 second. I mean, this is not going to make too much difference. There's not going to be a difference between Nautlius being completely broken and now being completely useless. Just little slight nerfs. But I still think the champion is going to be very, very strong just because how much crowd control and how much you can offer with Nautlius. Rakan as well, another support that has been very, very strong. Kayn is still flying high despite these recent nerfs, so reducing the damage on ground entrance and increasing the cooldown of battle dance, and it should ruffle some feathers. The thing that surprises me is that they're not nerfing any of the enchanter supports like Karma, Nami, Lulu. You know, these champions are very, very strong in the support meta, but for some reason they're nerfing, you know, Nautlius and Rakan instead. Even though in solo queue and duo queue, etc., you're just seeing a lot of enchanters and they're just buffing up the AD so much that they are, you know, doing quite a lot. It's very interesting that they're basically nerfing the engage supports even more than the enchanter supports. They just want enchanter supports to be a thing now, even more. Unless this is more towards pro play, because pro play Nautlius and Rakan are very, very strong. But yeah, the second ability, these names are wrong as well. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be Kai'Sa. Void Seeker is Kai'Sa. I'm pretty sure Supercharge is Kai'Sa. But anyway, we'll ignore the names. But yeah, the base damage going down on the second ability, and also third ability going up in cooldown. I think the third ability going up in cooldown is pretty big. The base damage again is only 10, so it doesn't mean too much. But the third ability going up by 2 seconds every single rank, it means you have less of an opportunity to engage. Most time with Rakan, you don't really want to engage unless you have your third ability up and available, because then you can dash in and you can dash away to safety. But if you dash in and you have no way of getting out, then you're in a little bit of a struggle. So this means that you have less opportunities to engage on Rakan, which could be quite interesting. Sett, they're adjusting Sett ever so slightly, so they're increasing his base AD, which will help him a lot in the early game, but the attack speed per level is going down. So say Sett's base attack damage is low, especially when you compare it to other fighters, so we're making him hit harder but slower. We want we want this boss to throw those heavy haymakers, not fast jabs. I like the pun there. That was pretty good. But yeah, really, really nice changes, I think, to Sett. Makes him a lot stronger in the early game. But again, his scaling with his attack speed and everything is not going to be as strong as before. Yone as well, getting some changes. Yone's on the strong side, and feedback from you all has been very clear that he's extremely frustrating to play against in his current form. Very, very true. So we're slashing some of the wave clear and defensive capabilities to make sure that he exposes himself to proper risks. So this is the second ability, not the first ability. I've realized that all of these numbers are basically wrong. So the second ability is being nerfed because this is the same as the first look. The minimum damage to monsters have gone from 50 to 400 to now 60 to 200. So you have a little bit more in the early game, but it doesn't scale near enough as much into the mid and late game. And the same with the damage cap to monsters as well. 100, you go less, and then you also got less as well. In the wait, I just realized I said monsters for this. This is minions, this is monsters. I got confused, but yeah, this is minions. So the minion wave clear is not going to be as strong. It's going to be good in the early game, but not strong in the late game. And then the monsters are just going to be going down overall because jungle Yone is still very, very strong at the moment. And then the base shield is also not as strong as well. The base shield is just going down by 10, which again, I don't think it's going to mean too much because you still build quite a lot of AD with Yone. So the scaling will still be exactly the same, 70% of the opponent's AD. This is where things have changed ever so slightly. I'm curious to see what they wrote here. We're big Zoe fans over here, and we really hope she wins XD. Oh my god, not that mean. Not that meme. But right now, this Mischievous mage is weaker than we like to see in the early game. So we're adjusting the bonus movement speed and bonus movement speed duration of Spell Thief to better allow Zoe to make impactful plays during the laning phase and those early. The thing is about Zoe is that, I mean, she's never really been a early game champion anyway. She's always been, I mean, she's technically a mage, so she scales well into the mid and late game, and her mid and late game is disgustingly strong. Like, if you land one bubble, then you can one-shot pretty much anyone on the map once you reach, you know, 3 or 4 items. I don't think her early game needed touching at all. Like I said, the only thing that's different now with the early game with Zoe is that the Spell Thief, so the second ability, when you level this up at level 2, you're not going to get a drop from the minions until a lot later on, which is different from PC League. So it's kind of nerfed her early game by quite a lot. The interesting thing is they're also buffing her base health, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they're buffing her health per level. Again, I'm not too sure if this is a mistake, but this is a crazy change. 105 to 112 like health per level. I don't think this was needed at all. I mean, yes, Zoe is squishy, but again, she's supposed to be squishy because she can hit abilities from miles away and she doesn't need to be in melee range or anything like that, you know, and she can pick up 20 million summoner spells. Bug fix is still there on the second ability. Bonus movement speed has gone up in the early game, but a little bit down in the later stages, and a bonus movement speed duration has gone up at 1 and 2, stays the same at level 3, and level 4 has gone down. So you're not going to get that much impact from maxing this. I mean, you normally don't max this ability until last anyway, so you're going to be feeling the 10% increase in movement speed and also the increased duration by 2.5 seconds pretty much for the entirety of the game, because like I said, you only put 1 point in this ability and then you max it last. So I'm not too sure. These changes are very, very questionable. Very, very questionable to me. Awake Soulstealer. Oh yeah, there was another thing that changed as well with Luden's Ekko, because I realized that the numbers were wrong in the first look. So Awake Soulstealer, the cooldown refund on kill 20 to 25. Now even more woke and I thought I was going to say woke for a second. Now even more woke are giving you the refunds you deserve, unlike your upcoming taxes. Wow. Okay, that's an interesting one. Horizon Focus also getting buffed. I think this is a pretty big buff, to be honest with you. The passive damage. Keep a close eye on Horizon Focus, and it looks like we've got some damage buffs on the horizon for this item. Yeah, these buffs are pretty big for the item, and I think this item was already pretty strong on most champions. You know, Vex, Orianna, Lux, champions like that. This item has been very, very strong. So they're just going to get even stronger now. And then these are the correct numbers for Luden's Echoes. So it's not as crazy as what we thought. It's just a 10 base damage increase on the lightning damage, which is the passive damage. We feel that Luden's Ekko can use a little boost to help it stand out amongst the other ability power items. This is what I don't understand. Luden's Ekko is the best starting item for any AP champion right now. I don't understand why they think they need to buff Luden's Ekko. Yes, it's 10 base damage. It doesn't really mean too much. But why buff Luden's Ekko? Because the thing is, Rod of Ages is now being replaced by Luden's Ekko on most mages now. You know, Annie, Diana, Galio. I already mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. They've already basically changed their build, and they're all building Luden's Ekko now, and it's going to make you want to build Luden's Ekko even more, because they're buffing it even more. I don't know. Again, another questionable change that I don't think was needed. I think Luden's Ekko was already strong. If anything, I think Luden's Ekko needed a nerf, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's my opinion. Right, this is the exciting stuff now. This is all the new stuff. Base burning. To limit turtling tactics in the later stages of the game and keep the overall length of the games reasonable, we're introducing the base burning system. In the very late stages of the game, turrets will begin to burn, accelerating games to their conclusion. So at 25 minutes, which I think is a pretty good time, because if your game lasts more than 25 minutes, that should not be a thing. So I'm glad that this base burning is not until 25 minutes. I think that's totally fine. I think it's actually pretty good that base burning happens at 25 minutes. Very rarely you go above a 25-minute game. The outermost turret is in each lane, loses 25 magic resist and 25 armor, and starts losing 3% maximum health every 3 seconds. So the outermost turret. Okay, so that basically means, so the outermost turret is the one that's furthest towards the middle of the map. So you got tier 1 tower, tier 2 tower, the inhibitor tower, then obviously the nexus. So if the tier 1 tower is still alive, it will go to that first. If the tier 2 tower is alive, then it will go for that. But if it's the inhibitor, I'm guessing it will go straight to the inhibitor turret straight away. Inhibitor turrets stop taking burning damage when they drop below 25% health. Okay, so making it so the inhibitor turrets don't drop automatically. I guess that'd be kind of crazy, but they will go all the way to 25%, which I think is fine. So basically this means that tier 1 towers and tier 2 towers will go down, but the inhibitor towers will not go down. They'll only stop when they drop below 25% health, and it will stop taking burning damage. trying to think, 25% health is still quite a lot of HP. I'm trying to think like if you can maybe backdoor and take an inhibitor tower later on, but you'll probably still need minions to help you out for that. Which is quite interesting. Obviously, with the inhibitor respawn mechanic as well being in the game, it's quite interesting as well. Base burning has no effect on the Nexus. I mean, no surprise there. I think this is totally fine. I was kind of worried about this a little bit because I thought they were going to start this a little bit earlier. But I think 25 minutes is a perfect time for base burning. Right, inhibitor respawns. This is also a very, very interesting one. To provide more opportunities for interesting comebacks in the mid and late game, inhibitors can now respawn. When inhibitors respawn, the respawn inhibitor cannot deal damage to enemy units. Inhibitor respawn time scales up with the game time, so losing inhibitor in the early game, in the early stages of the game, will have less of an impact, while taking the enemy inhibitor in a late game remains a powerful tactic to close out the game. Interesting that the respawn inhibitors cannot attack, so I'm guessing at first it's going to be an inhibitor tower, but when they respawn it will just be a normal inhibitor. So that means that backdooring is going to be a lot more common, and you know, taking inhibitor turrets, inhibitors in general is going to be a lot more common when you take down that inhibitor turret first. But the big thing is you need to take that inhibitor turret first because that's going to be taking damage, but after that they're not going to be able to take damage. So it's basically going to be a blind inhibitor that a Jax can walk up to, keep auto attacking, and he's not going to take any damage at all because the respawn inhibitors cannot attack. Which I think is going to be very, very interesting. If an inhibitor is destroyed within the first 13 minutes of the game, it respawns after 4 minutes. 13 to 18 minutes is 5 minutes, and after 18 minutes is 6 minutes. 6 minutes is a long time. My God, if you take it 18 minutes, that means it's not going to respawn until 24 minutes into the game. So they're not making inhibitor respawns as common as what I thought. I thought it'd be a lot more common than this, but at 18 minutes when you take an inhibitor anyway, 6 minutes is a long time. I mean, you're gonna have to try and stall the game out a lot for that inhibitor to respawn. I mean, on average, most Wild Rift games last between, like, you know, 15 to 20 minutes. That's like a rough average. Very rarely you see an inhibitor drop within the first 13 minutes. So most of the time you're going to be having this timer between 13 and 18 minutes, I think, which is 5 minutes. Even then it's long. You know, 30 minutes into the game, 5-minute timer. That's you know, 18 minutes it respawns. That's a long time still. So I think that, I mean, it's cool. It's nice that they've added inhibitor respawn, so it means that when you lose an inhibitor, you don't feel like the game is over straight away. You still have that comeback mechanic, which I think is quite nice. And then you have the free champion rotations. So yeah, this patch will be going out tomorrow, with obviously legendary queue going on at the moment. I'd be interested to see. There's nothing here that states that this is going live day 1, but then it says at the top that it says reminder content will be released throughout the patch. So I'm not too sure if they're releasing inhibitors day 1. We'll have to see. We'll have to test it out and see how it works. But yeah, really excited to see the changes. Really excited for some of the busts as well that happens to some of the AD carries. So hopefully you enjoyed this patch rundown. I will see you all on the stream, and I'll see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Peace.